Hey team, hope you guys are all enjoying your week. It is supposed to be gorgeous outside. So just make sure to get out and enjoy it before the snow probably hits us at least one more time. I just have a few things I wanted to share with you moving into this final week of our series Country Strong. And then of course next weekend, Easter, Super Bowl weekend for us here. But I wanted to share with you a thought that has been kind of going through my head, especially this last week as we move into the last series of Country Strong. So the song that we're going to be basing this off of is the song My Church. I'd never heard it before. I'm not much of a country music person, but so I listened to it for the first time, and it's all talking about her church, and so that's what we're going to be talking about is my church. And so it made me start thinking, well, who is my church? I've shared this before the last few weeks, but I look at myself as kind of a personal pastor for this team. My job is really to invest in you guys, and then for that to just flow from one through everyone. And that's how David leads us, that's how we lead our teams, and that's how you guys lead your teams all the way down. Because we know one person can't reach the 3,000 people that come to Fountain Springs. But as teams, we can continue to invest in small groups that lead to everybody getting to see who Jesus is and getting to mature and grow in his relationship. And that's how we continue to build disciples. So I have been thinking, okay, who is my church? Who is that group of people that I could talk to on a regular basis, that I can invest in, that we can build this relationship and, just continue to make disciples. I have a list of people that I know, okay, this is my church. These are the ones that if I don't end up talking to anybody else during the week, these are the people that I want to talk to. So I want to know if you guys have that. Do you have a my church? Do you have a group of people that either here at Fountain Springs or outside of Fountain Springs, that no matter what, you want to invest in them? Now for you, it could be family. It should be family. But outside of family, who is it? I would challenge you guys to come up with the list of who your church is, because as leaders, God puts people on our hearts, and while we may not be the lead pastor, we could pastor somebody. When you look at Paul, he always said you need a Timothy and you need a Barnabas. You need somebody that is investing in you, but you also need somebody you're investing in. And so as leaders here, we want to continue to remember, we're investing in people, and I know we do such an incredible job of that within our teams, our serving teams here at Fountain Springs. But outside of our serving teams, there's probably people that you would consider to be in your church. And I would love to hear who those people are. But then I would also like to take some time and just think, okay, if this is my church, if these are my people, what am I doing to invest in them, to help them become better disciples, to help them grow in their relationship with Christ? Because ultimately that's our goal for everybody. Every person that I look at and I think they're my people, they're my church, that is my dream, is that they can just continue to grow in their relationship with God. That's all I can ask for, and that's all I want to ask for. And so who is your church? I want us to be thinking about that this weekend. But then just a few other quick things. Big weekend coming up. Easter weekend, next weekend. Again, if we'll have one more time, we're going to have the sign-up sheets that you guys will carry around just in case you have any more people who want to sign up. Big thing we're going to be doing is anyone who's willing, and I want you guys to ask some of your teams this, anyone who's willing, if they would be willing to help with student ministry, with the kids' ministry at Easter, we still need about 100 people, 100 volunteers for this Easter weekend. So I know myself, Alan, the Next Steps teams, the people who have been making phone calls, we're going to be making phone calls for the rest of this week and next week, and we're just going to be asking people, hey, if you're willing, please come serve in the kids ministry, because we want to reach thousands of kids. And so we want to help put the workers in place. That's always the thing, and Jesus said it a long, long time ago, that the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. And it's always that way. But we want to do everything we can to build up the workers so that we can just gather all of the harvest. Every single kid, we want to show who Jesus is. That means we need to be putting people there in their path. So be willing to ask your teams that. If you could ask them, hey, are you guys willing to serving kids? If you're not serving somewhere, would you be willing to serve in kids? Which leads me to one of the things we're going to try and do moving forward. So I don't know if you guys know this, but our biggest win last week came in the kids ministry. At the 9 a.m. service, we had 208 people in the auditorium, which is awesome. We're getting a ton of people coming to Fountain Springs East, and they're connecting and they're getting community, and you guys are there making sure that's happening. But 208 in the auditorium, 111 kids in kids ministry. Now that's infant to 5th grade. And if you were in the auditorium, you know that there were kids in the auditorium as well. But we had over a 50% ratio. Normally in church, you have about a 25% ratio. So that means you have a quarter of the amount of kids that as you have adults. Well, we had over 50%. It reminded me actually of a few years ago. I remember watching our kids ministry just explode. And if you guys were here, it was about 5 years ago, and just like kids just flooded in, and families realized this is a great place for my kid. And so they started coming, they started telling their friends, and they just started, kids just blew up the ministry. Figuratively, not literally. But that's happening again. We are having an incredible amount of kids come to Fountain Springs. And we love it, because that's the church. That's our future. That's the generations that we are trying to build up. That's the legacy that we are trying to create in these kids. And we are loving that. But we're also realizing with how many kids are coming, we don't have enough people, volunteers. And so I know a few of you have worked in kids before, and this is what I'm going to ask. Not that you start volunteering in kids, but that us as Next Steps and Guest Services, we are willing to pick up the slack if they need any help, because I never want to hear that someone had to get turned away from kids. So if you guys are willing, I'm going to ask you, and if you could ask your teams, if any of them are willing to have a background check done on them and put on a list. That way, if they're serving that day, if you're serving that day, and we happen to be, to the point where we have to turn kids away, kids knows that we have this list of people who are willing to step in and volunteer in kids. I know I'm going to start doing that. I know Nick and Amanda have done that. I want us as leaders to start helping that. I want them to know that we are there to support them. And it's just, there's so many kids coming. It's incredible. And so I want to be there to make sure they never have to turn a kid away. And so I want us as a team to be willing to step in there, as they step in the gap, and stand in that gap and say, hey, you know what? Don't ever turn a kid away. I'll come help. So if you're willing to do that, please do so. Ask your teams this week and next week and the week after. Hey, if you're willing to do that, please. But other than those things, the last thing I wanted to share with you, just informational, is Saturday services is coming up in 2 weeks. And so next weekend is Easter. So our rotation is going to stay. So right now we're on B weekend, I believe. So next weekend will be considered A. Then next weekend will be B again. And we'll make sure to have that all explained, and we'll have the schedules out to make sure we're not stopping and restarting. We're just going to continue to go as is. So there is going to be some people who serve this weekend, Easter weekend, and then the weekend after that. But with Saturday services coming up, there's going to be 5 weeks where we're asking everybody to serve every single week. Not just for the 5 weeks, but if you could reiterate that to your teams again, that's what we're looking to do. It'd be such a big help. 5-week period where we're asking everyone to serve every single week to see how Saturday services go. Other than that, I know this was a little bit longer, but I'm excited to see where we're going. Be thinking about who your church is, and be praying. Please be praying for Easter coming up. 10,000 people is who we believe God is going to bring to the Civic Center to hear about His love, and we're very excited to get to be a part of that. So I love you guys. Have a good weekend. We'll see you Sunday.